Hey, thanks so much for joining me here, Brock.
No
It's very
worries.
exciting to host you. Of course, I invited you because you're doing some amazing work in the cybersecurity field in New Zealand, but also in our region, in Australia and New Zealand. So I think it's more than suiting to have you join us here today. So perhaps we could have a conversation about who you are, what you've been doing in the field, the amazing project you have called Education Arcade, of course, and what are the goals and what it looks like. That'd be awesome.
First of all, thanks for having me on. This is quite exciting. So I'm Brock Roderick. I'm the creator of a project called Education Arcade. Probably before I jump into that story, a little bit of context on me
Yep.
would probably give a lot of insight into why I started doing this.
Yeah.
So I used to work at one of the financial institutions in New Zealand in the technology operational risk space. So we would look after a bunch of technology risks, one of them being cybersecurity. And that role really entailed working on initiatives and projects to treat things or raise awareness or raise people's understanding of cybersecurity threats within the organization and outside of the organization. So one of the projects I was assigned to was doing an executive training on cyber threats and how to respond, basically to prepare the leadership team to respond to a real threat scenario like a CSIRT response. But this was prior to the training that you would do to introduce them into a CSIRT exercise, right? So it was a bit of an awareness piece there. So about 6 years ago, I got assigned that piece of work and looked around to see what training was actually out there to fit this hole that we needed to do, this project we needed to fill. And we came across PwC's Game of Threats, which is this really interesting simulation exercise, a gamified tabletop player versus player, attacker versus defender exercise, right? It was really interesting. So we got a bunch of teams together from all over the business that would compete against each other to try and compromise each other. And a lot of these people were non-technical, and the training itself was non-technical, which was really good.
Sorry, can I pose a question?
Yeah, sure.
So that exercise was not technical. It was attacker versus defender, just around tabletop and this sort of activity. So that's awesome to bring the conversation from cybersecurity to a more humane level. That's what I'm thinking, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of it isn't the technical response, right? It's, do we know what plans we need to follow? Do we have the right people in the room? Do we understand the flow of events? And a lot of that needs to be practiced, and a lot of it isn't technical. It's procedural based, people and procedure. That part of the exercise was really interesting. Even though they were talking about, technical concepts like 0 days or that sort of thing, or encryption, they still were able to resonate with the content. So after that training, I had non-technical people from the business coming up to me and saying, "This is great. We want to roll this out across everybody. How much did it cost?" And it cost a lot. So the audience was limited. There was only so many people who can physically fit in a room. So that sort of initially sparked the idea of, okay, well, how can we make this scalable, this experience scalable? How can we make it interactive for people? How can we make it cheaper? How can we basically democratize this type of learning? So I toiled away for about a year just trying to create content. So gamified content to go, all right, we can create personalized gamified cybersecurity awareness stuff that individuals can play. We made 5 games before we even released one.
Sure.
It's very, very steep learning curve. And
imagine that.
Yeah. And once you got that proof.
So now you're getting into the game development itself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hey, did you have any past experience on that, or did you have a circle of friends who did?
Nothing.
Awesome.
So
Okay.
I've always been quite a creative person, but never had any experience with game development. Played tons of video games since I could walk, but it was always an interest of mine. I thought it was quite interesting. So YouTube has been my biggest teacher. It was watching thousands of hours of videos from people doing research on what game engines were the easiest for newcomers, and could provide the value that I was looking to deliver, and basically just kept plugging away for a year, evenings, weekends, non-stop, just trying to get some proof of concept together, and then show it to a few people to sort of gauge their reaction. So after that very, very long process of teaching myself, coding and animation and graphic design and all the other things that come along with that, even audio design, I had no idea how hard that can be for creating the right sort of sounds. But fast forward a year, and I finally had this proof of concept, and I started showing it around a few people, and they were blown away. They thought this was a really interesting idea. So then it was about, okay, well, we've got our proof of concept. How do we want to deliver this content? And it really boils down to sort of the two core fundamental goals that we have. One was around the democratization of this high quality, high interactive, gamified learning. How can we get that out to as many people and remove as many barriers as possible? Because we've seen how effective it can be, and we don't think money should be a roadblock for somebody being able to access this type of content. So that was goal number one. And then goal number two was for businesses that do have some money, but not lots of money to be able to release content or create content. How can we make it significantly cheaper for them to give them a lot more bang for buck, lower that barrier to entry so that smaller businesses can then actually pick up this content and put it into their LMSs, their learning management systems, or their intranet, or whatever it may be. So with those two goals in mind, we've basically structured Education Arcade as almost two entities. You've got the social enterprise free public charity, which is the website www.educationarcade.co.nz.
Yep.
Anyone can go on there. You don't need to sign up, don't need a credit card. You just need to click on the game section, pick which thing you want to learn about, whether it be DLP, phishing, ransomware, business email compromise, whatever the scenario. Click on that and you play a game right in your browser. It's exactly the content that we've been creating. And then on the flip side of that, if a business wants to use that content but tweak the messaging to fit their internal policies or processes or standards, we can create a custom copy of that game, tweak the messaging, maybe debrand our stuff and put their internal company logo in there, and we'll sell that to them at a fraction of the cost that it would cost them to actually develop that themselves. So usually it works out to be about a fifth to a sixth of the cost. So that's effectively Education Arcade as it is, and we basically we're a team of two. You've got me that does all the website content, the everything, and then I've got a partner which is my advisor. So he's been a long time cybersecurity professional. I've worked with him for over 10 years. Very, very trusted guy, and we'll meet once every couple of months, and I'll just say, here's the direction I think we should go in, here's the content I want to release. He'll review a lot of the content and go, oh, you might want to tweak this or add this element in here. Have you looked at this new threat? Maybe this is an emerging issue that we need to start creating content for. So he's basically that advisor role to keep my crazy ideas in check.
That's the ideation process. Fantastic. That's amazing. Yeah,
exactly. So, and a great example of the speed in which Education Arcade can go is that we saw early on when NFTs were blowing up over COVID that there was this a very high potential for fraud and for scams to come out of that space. So a little less cybersecurity focus, more fraud awareness, scam awareness, but still within our purview of what we want to achieve, which is safer online communities. So we created an NFT scam simulator in a very short amount of time, a plan around how to launch that and then push that out to everybody. So and that was actually our that project or mini project within the Education Arcade project was the first award that we're actually nominated for, which was an ISINS award, which we happened to win. So
awesome, amazing, congratulations! Yeah, that was the first one, the first award you guys won with the project.
Yeah, first one, absolutely. And then the most recent one was the cybersecurity most innovative cybersecurity educator award through Women in Security. That was an industry award which some stranger nominated us for, which we're very grateful for. And we won that November last month. So
Yeah,
it's very
congratulations. Yeah,
exciting.
amazing stuff. But look,
Yeah,
I cannot fathom the challenges of starting your own development, learning, and coming up with a proof of concept, and then having something to release and to win awards such as yourself. That's amazing stuff.
yeah. I mean, if I sort of saw this gap, right? Like
Yeah,
there's some value we can add here. And I was like, why hasn't nobody filled this gap? It doesn't make any sense. And I realized why nobody filled the gap is because it's really, really hard.
yeah.
And it costs a bit of money. So
And a lot of time and a lot of
a
passion,
lot of
right?
time. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we've been
Yeah,
going for 5 years. So
yeah.
the passion is still very much there.
Amazing. Yeah,
And we've been constantly trying to churn out as much content as we possibly can.
yeah,
Given that we both work full-time jobs outside of this project,
yeah,
trying to figure out ways to give it some lifeblood so it can continue
yeah,
operating. Which, earlier this year we're extremely grateful to Internet New Zealand for providing us a grant so that we could replace some equipment, some dying computers, which was an absolute godsend. We could continue operating, and creating content with top of the line PC that's going to keep us in business for another 10 years. Still figuring out the operational costs, but at the moment we will continue self-funding that.
yeah,
Putting a couple of ads on certain games that we
yeah.
have to, unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
And I think an important part of it as well is the wider model, like you're suggesting, and you're getting into. Do you guys have a donation piece so that people can get into the platform, consume the content, like you just said, but can they donate as well and help out the project?
100%. So
Yeah,
about a year ago, we created a give a little page.
sure. Yeah,
We don't push it. It's literally was spurred on by somebody contacting us saying, "Hey, I love what you're doing. Would love to, how can I donate as an individual?" We just realized we didn't have anything, so we've got to give a little page, a link in our footer on the
yeah,
website. But it's not something we actively push. One of the ways that we're trying to sustain Education Arcade is predominantly through sponsorship.
mhm,
So a company that wants to sponsor the work that we do, we'll put them on our sponsorship page. We can put advertising on a game that they want if they have a related product to that topic.
yeah,
That's one of our key things. One of the things we're actually working on at the moment is how do we align the value add for people using or learning about a specific topic with the ad that they may see at the bottom of the game. So, for example, our latest game that we're actually going to release in the next couple of weeks is about confidentiality and how to maintain that through your information systems and your accounts as an individual. So one of the tools that we recommend or advise people on within the game itself is probably the use of a password manager.
sure. Yeah,
So it would make sense if we had a sponsor that was, a password manager supplier, of which they could fit into that, and that relationship would be quite logical and adding value to the people using our content, because our content may say, here's why you need this. But the piece that's sort of a bit ad hoc and doesn't always hit is the how.
yeah,
How do I actually get that piece? And that's where I see that relationship really forming. So sponsorship and sort of an advertising bonus for anyone that sponsors, that's really one of the ways we're trying to keep the project running. Aside from being extremely thrifty with everything we do, we don't pay ourselves any money. We invest 100% of the money back into the stuff that we do, whether it be through equipment purchases. If we need new equipment, for example, the desk I'm sitting at right now is handmade by myself out of scrap wood. You know, we're not going to drop $600 on a new desk when we can use that money to put into the arcade. So we've got very clear priorities about how we spend our money and making sure that we get best bang for buck possible.
Sounds to me like that's the startup mentality. That's amazing.
100%. Yep. You work your butt off and believe in your project. You've got all this passion inside you, and you're very thrifty with your money and your time. So seems to work there. It's good.
Amazing. Well, great conversation there, Brock. I appreciate your time. And what's in the roadmap for the project? You mentioned you have one module coming up, right, or a game coming up. Is there more in the roadmap as well, or what are you looking at?
So we actually just released one of our courses. Now this is one of the first things we've actually done, which isn't purely games. We released a course last month to teach young kids in New Zealand about how to be secure online starting from day zero when they first get their new device. So we've got...
What's the age of kids that you're targeting?
Yeah, so for that particular piece, we're targeting year 3 to year 7 at schools. So I think that's about 6 to about 12. And the content's very easy to understand, but each module has some core principles that we're trying to ingrain in these kids, which is, how to secure your device, whatever that device may be, how to secure yourself, and then how to take a break, really. How do you look after yourself, especially with the online like social pressure that kids are under. So that's sort of a holistic view of what we see a young person entering into device ownership and internet independence really needs to know for them to be able to become a good digital citizen of New Zealand. So that's one of the pieces that we're really looking forward to pushing out further. We pushed that out initially through Cyber Smart Week, and we want to continue trying to get it into as many schools as possible because it's free and effective. The game that we're just releasing is actually part 1 of 3. It's called CIA Secure Operation Confidential is the first game, and anyone in cybersecurity will know that the CIA triad is sort of a fundamental cornerstone of cybersecurity. So we're going to make a trilogy of those games with an interlinking story, which will go through how to maintain the confidentiality of your own systems. That's the first one, and your accounts. How to maintain the integrity of those systems, and then the availability of those systems as well. So we'll go through all of those, teaching That's individual amazing. Messages at each one. And then I've got about 6 projects on the shelf which I just don't have time to start, or I've had to start and then stop because priorities have shifted. One I'm really looking forward to is getting into the physical gaming space. So I want to make a card game, but I'll talk more about that when it's a bit further along.
when time comes. That's amazing. No, it's great to see that. You get a lot of ideas in mind for it. Amazing.
Too many. I'll wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, pen and paper, write something down. Oh, that's a great idea, and go back to sleep.
Good stuff. Hey, thanks so much for your time, Brock. Amazing work you're doing, amazing project. I'll put the link to your project, of course, in the description. Thanks. Any last words, Brock?
No, just thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing with the channel. I think it's great. Shining a light on the great work that we do. So, keep at it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brock. No, thanks for your time again. And see you around.
See you later.
Thank you.